we are thankful to Architect Shilpa, who has joined us today in our conversation series to talk about the Kumbh Mela in Nasik. She has pursued her PhD and has done extensive research on the city and its history, and also has recently published an article on Nasik's Kumbh Mela. We are expecting the next Kumbh Mela in 2027, and we are here to talk about her perspectives on the city's history and the Kumbh Mela. So, with that, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's dive into it, and why don't we start with what do you think about the Kumbh and its history, and just give us a preliminary idea of what you think of the Kumbh and the city.
Um, to begin with, like in Nasik, the Kumbh, like when I began my research in back in 2015, when the earlier Kumbh was, so there at that point of time, people were hardly aware about that Nasik holds the Kumbh. But this time, when we're talking about the Kumbh, there's a much publicity, social media campaigns that talks about the Kumbh and Nasik's connect. So that transition I've sort of seen almost for a decade now, like how that has happened. Even like in the last Kumbh, the administration and even the locals took a lot of effort to talk about the river, talk about the importance of the Kumbh for the city itself. Because like Kumbh is not really merely a moment in city's history. It is like it is temporal, but it stays for quite a long. It begins quite early for like when Nasik is prepping for Kumbh. We began talking about Kumbh say 2-3 years before the actual Kumbh begins, and we still keep talking about it post the Kumbh festivity sort of end. So for us, for people of Nasik, when it is kind of a perpetual thing which keeps on talking about, and when then we wait for the next Kumbh. So that cycle is sort of has become in itself Nasik's cycle of talking about development, talking about different discourses also. So for me, like when I began the research, for me I was an outsider. I don't belong to Nashik. So looking at Nasik from a Kumbh's perspective in the earlier phases of 2015, for me it was interesting to see how that particular Kumbh became a churning moment for city to talk about environment and ecology, because that was something which kind of shook up the people in the last Kumbh. But again, but then it sort of fizzled out over the years after the Kumbh. But then something similar is like again happening this time also. Like we're talking about climate change, we're talking about temperature, we're talking about trees, we're talking about the river, definitely. But we're talking about the tributaries also. So whole in all, from a reverse perspective, you're broadening your scope of looking at the city, looking at the Kumbh also, and impact also. So in a way, Kumbh becomes apart from leave aside the developmental infrastructural development that are happening in the city, but it becomes a moment of an intellectual discourse that people develop, that locally people develop about the city, about its environment, about its identity, about its cultural standing, about its history, how it should be portrayed. Like this time, we're also talking. People are also talking about how the Kumbh should represent Nasik also, and people are also thinking beyond the Kumbh also. So there's like last time it was about Kumbh and branding Nasik with the Kumbh. But this time it is also about making Nasik visible even beyond the Kumbh, because that is the connect. Like that's how people of Nasik becomes much more legible in that sense. This I'm talking about from a local's perspective. Like somebody who's living in Nashik would want to be developing in this scenario. But obviously there are other aspects of tourism and say people management and other things that are also happening simultaneously. So in terms of discourse, that has a shift that I've observed in the from the last Kumbh to this time. And this time the Kumbh has become, in a way, last time it was much more local. Like things were happening locally, and locals were sort of listened to also. Even what you can say, their participation was much more locally acceptable. This time it has become much more nationwide, could be international also. So that it has both pros and cons to it, but that reach or engagement often outsider wouldn't be a right word, but for a lack of better word, I would say outsider have increased a lot in the preparation of the Kumbh this time. So some like how things pan out in that sense, we would have to see how things say shape up for the Kumbh. But yeah, it's a for now like it's a wait and watch thing. Like nobody's able to. And the first of the other thing is Nasik, where it is located geographically, it has always been center of development because it is close to Mumbai and Pune, the triangle that we call, right? But does Nasik has the capacity to absorb the pace of development that it is being put through right now? That is where I sort of struggle to see Nasik and even visualize it. What will it become in this Kumbh itself, or how will it change, or how things will get absorbed in the ongoing everydayness of the city?
I think you touched upon some very interesting points, and one of the points is about the city and its identity, which you're
Right.
talking about, right? And the question of identity in relation to development, and what is the sort of development that is being pushed through. If you can, highlight a bit more and talk a bit more about this relation of identity and development in the backdrop of what is happening. Yeah.
So one primary thing, like in terms of development, so Nasik's Kumbh is a bit different logistically. The way it is uh, organized also because of the ecological condition of Nasik. Because say in Haridwar or in Prayagraj, we have a different set of river. Like river is different there. The ecological conditions are different. The floodplains are different. So the span, the scope, the visuals of the festivities are different in there. But when you talk about Nasik, it happens within the city core. So, and that also sort of guide how the preparations or the infrastructural management happens simultaneously. So in Nashik, Kumbh becomes the force, guiding force of doing all kind of development, be it sewage, be it road infrastructure, be it upgrading the facilities of for basic amenities. It becomes all that, and everything is specialized for that. So even this time we are looking at a very heavy road construction, upgrading of the facilities, say putting everything underground, making invisible the wires invisible from the road, connectivity, more how city become more connectable in sense of to the old core. Then you talk of there's a river development also in the place. Like we are calling it a ghat development, but it is in a way river development project that it is sort of repackaged in that sense. That is also there. Then also there's also talks about how the old core, where the whole cosmos is of the religion, of the people also, the spiritual cosmos is there. Even that is getting reconfigured. Some things are reworked, reshaped. Like for example, Ramkund itself is getting reshaped for the Kumbh, like with the corridor thing happening. Even the Karam Crescent is getting reshaped. So, and that is happening in some way is it's happening in a very flat vision. Like things that have happened in the other cities in the country, those are sort of not really imposed, but trying to be layered with the fabric of Nashik. Are people happy about it? There's a big question mark on that. Will it solve the problems of the Kumbh management? And we have to see that. But ecologically, it is not really helping. In the last Kumbh, the developmental things were sort of in the phase of road construction. There were few ghat construction in the downstream, but not at a very massive scale. But this time it is happening at a very massive scale, and it is not only happening in the old core, but it is happening across the city. So like the city is in the phase of what you can say, like a construction site altogether. Like everywhere you see, and everywhere you see, you feel it is for the Kumbh. But And I feel there's a lack of dialogue between the governance and the people also, that कि हम जो कर रहे हैं, what is exactly, I don't feel there was a dialogue anywhere within the governance कि whatever is happening कि वो क्यों हो रहा है और क्या हो रहा है, कुंभ के लिए हो रहा है, सिटी के लिए हो रहा है, या it is for the future planning of the city. Sometimes we hear that it is happening for the say 5-10 years down the line, we won't have to dig up the city anymore. But exactly what it is, like things that happened in the past with the smart city projects are sort of repeating itself again. Like वहाँ पे भी यही हुआ था कि smart road बना, बहुत चीज़ें हुई, but क्यों हो रही है? Why it is important for Nasik to sort of implement that or absorb that? वो dialogue ही नहीं हुआ. The discourse didn't happen. Like in this case, people are talking about few aspects. We are talking about the river. Even the people are talking about the river. We're talking about the ecology, the trees, the forestation, and everything. But in general, the sewage management, the stormwater management, which also become part of the ecological setup of Nasik, because Nasik is designed, has evolved that way because it's sitting on a watershed of Godavari and the other tributaries also. So they have to have a conversation within themselves, which is not happening even from the local side. Some people are trying to do that, like when people are trying to conserve the upper watershed in the Brahmagiri mountain. वहाँ पे it's happening with the connect between the developmental aspects. Everything is seen in isolation. Stormwater की बात हम कर रहे हैं, अलग से कर रहे हैं, but how it is linking with the river's ecology, वो बात नहीं हो रही है. So I think that is where the developmental pace I was talking about, कि Nasik is not able to absorb that fast pacing developmental activities that are happening in Nasik. Neither the people are able to कि क्या हो रहा है, nobody knows about it. So
just to clarify,
Yeah.
you're saying that the things which are getting developed or the kind of infrastructure development which is happening is has not been put in the public domain, and the people of the city have not been given a chance to really look at it first.
Look, there's an informed participatory planning also which is involved, right? So that hasn't happened.
Okay.
Neither about the Kumbh activities also.
Right.
वहाँ पे काम शुरू हो गया, then people came to know about it कि काम शुरू हो गया. When people start putting the green curtains and everything, then people know about कि कुछ कर रहे हैं, क्या कर रहे हैं. Then if things are already starting, and then when we are getting to know about it, how much would somebody listen to the local
Right.
voice then, right? So that is the disconnect I'm talking about,
Right.
the dialogue, which should have happened say a year or two back when they were actually master planning the entire thing. I think that would have been the right moment to talk about. Now we just have to wait and see कि क्या हो रहा है. Like अभी storm water lines डाल रहे, I'm not saying it is bad or doing right or wrong, but first question, was it required? If required, then how it should have been planned? From where it should have been planned? So all these why, how questions could have been addressed in a better way. The people are also mentally prepared to adapt, absorb. It is something similar when, like initially when in the colonial time we were introduced to the taps. The taps got absorbed in the society because of the many public health issues like cholera and waterborne diseases, right? But there was the initial protest against tapping water, like tapping the people were thinking that हम नदी को ही tap कर रहे हैं, we are bottling the river. But then the practical consequences of it sort of got absorbed into it. Right or wrong, again a different ethical question. But this kind of conversation that ये हम कर रहे हैं, what is the logic behind it? How a local or how somebody commute with it or live with it in the city is where I feel the bigger gap, challenge is for both, for the governance also and for the people also.
So you talked about the history of some of the kumbhs, and especially how the 2027 kumbh looks slightly different, very different than the previous.
previous.
Yeah. So I mean, this is, as we know, a cyclic activity which
Right.
will happen again after 12 years.
Right,
after 12 years.
right.
So from that perspective, if you have to look at the Kumbh,
Hmm.
what do you think? Do you think that there is some kind of a sense of this cyclic nature of the event and the requirements that it will, bear on the city?
Hmm.
Or do you think that we are still thinking event per event as it comes to it?
I think we're still thinking of as event per event. We're not building upon the earlier events. If we would have built upon, say, 2015 event, so we already had a long-term action plan for Godavari setup given by the High Court, even by the Navy, which could have been very well implemented, followed, and built upon for this Kumbh. But no, we are again going to the scratch and starting with the zero. So that's where the continuation of the Kumbh, we are still thinking event by event. And how that event can be, like right now, it is about the frames. Like we're talking about development in frames. हम एक फ्रेम की बात कर रहे हैं, बट वो फ्रेम के पहले क्या हो रहा है, बाद में क्या हो रहा है, विद इन दैट बॉक्स, उसके बाहर कोई नहीं सोच रहा है. लाइक हाउ इट इज कनेक्टिंग. हम रामकुंड की बात कर रहे हैं, यस, बट रामकुंड के ऊपर भी गोदावरी है, नीचे भी गोदावरी बहने वाली है. सो इट इज अ फ्लो. सो नोबडी इज टॉकिंग अबाउट द फ्लो ऑफ द थिंग्स. सेम विद द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. लाइक सीवर वाटर इज ऑल्सो फ्लो ऑफ वाटर, राइट? फ्लो की बात कोई नहीं कर रहा है. लाइक हाउ इट इज लिंकिंग इन टू द बिगर साइकिल ऑफ द सिटीज इकोलॉजी, वो बात नहीं हो रही है. सो इन दैट वे the event based thinking is, which is where I think Nasik is not able to get out of. For the other kumbhs, for Prayagraj, for maybe Haridwar, event by event thinking is better because that doesn't happen within the city. It is a temporal city itself that gets built at a very large scale. And for them, they have to start from a scratch every time because the floodplains change, the river changes course, the things change on the floodplains. But for us, the context is same every year. साधुग्राम वहीं बनने वाला है, रामकुंड कहीं नहीं जाने वाला है. So the people would come to Ramkund anyways. War city is going to be there. The context is same every year for us, but we are not still thinking about building upon the earlier ones. Every time the story repeats itself. रामकुंड की बात फिर से हो रही है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट नदी की बात फिर से सीवेज से ही हो रही है कि वी हैव टू डीलिंग द सीवेज लाइन्स अगेन फॉर द कुंभ. बट इन द लास्ट 10 years बिफोर द कुंभ, segregating those lines permanently could have been a solution for it. But that hasn't happened in the past, building upon it.
One change which you perhaps also touched upon is the number of people who will be coming and the scale of the event.
Right.
So there will be a massive influx in the 2027 Kumbh.
Right.
We don't know yet, but maybe in the coming Kumbh as well, we'll see, as we have seen historically, the number of people are increasing every event.
year, yeah.
So that poses another challenge where it outpaces by a big factor the existing population of the city.
Right.
So when the infrastructure is being built for that event with that scale in mind, how do we then think of city's future in that relation or context?
In Nasik, I think the people coming for the Kumbh is more than, I think, 8 to 10 times the population of Nasik itself. And we're talking about that much of a influx of people, of a floating population, for example. Then the infrastructure is definitely planned and designed for that particular population. But that is a temporal population. That is not going to stay with the city for a long. And to reach that stage of population, the Nasik has to grow much more. So that infrastructure की जो planning हो रही है, is it only for the pilgrims or is it for the city design? So that is again the confusion happens. So हम नासिक को ready कर रहे हैं for the only for the pilgrims, कि हम नासिक को ready कर रहे हैं for next 25 years. Or even looking at the next Kumbh also, don't go beyond 10 years also. Like next Kumbh is in next 12 years. So हम next Kumbh की हिसाब से बात कर रहे हैं क्या? Or because we are doing everything in permanent. When we're talking about everything in permanence of infrastructure, we have to talk about the city first, because city has to live with the permanent infrastructure. Last Kumbh के time पे जो permanent घाट्स बने थे, I don't think nobody went there after the Kumbh. Like even during the Kumbh, nobody really, like people in Nasik, they come to go to Ramkund. People know Ramkund, and with the phones more, people know how Ramkund looks. So no, you cannot really misguide them also कि नदी तो यहीं पे है, this is the Godavari only. People don't want to go to Ramkund, वो गोमुख का फोटो आता है. Everything is very much transparent now. So people would go to Ramkund for the holiday. But the ghats, जो हम we're talking about dispersing the crowd along the river. Do pilgrims, I'm talking about the pilgrim category only, not the tourist category, but the pilgrim category, would they want to go to the other part of the river also? They might want to say Nausha Ganpati, to Someshwar, to other Tapovan, but Ramkund is their primary place of visit which they want to. So ये घाट्स की requirement है क्या? This time we are building the ghats on the upstream also. So upstream में how are we connecting the then outskirts जो बाहर से आ रहे हैं, वहाँ पे हम लोगों को कैसे navigate कर रहे हैं वहाँ तक?
Upstream कुठे करतो आपण?
I think सोमेश्वर धबधब्याच्या तिकडे करतोय. There is a ghat planned there.
Both side?
I think only on this side कमी वाचलेलं आहे.
Okay.
There is I think आनंदवाडीच्या तिकडे आहे. नवशा गणपतीच्या just upstream of downstream of the bridge आहे ना.
Okay.
त्या पट्ट्यात आहे. Even त्र्यंबकच्या आउटस्कर्ट्सला when गोदावरी leaves त्र्यंबक, the प्रयागराज तीर्थ जे आहे त्याच्या खाली अजून प्लॅन्ड आहे. इन बिटवीन दसक पंचक. दसक पर्यंत आपण मागच्या वेळेस गेलो होतो दसकला. दसक आणि तपोवनच्या मध्ये पण काही गोष्टी प्लॅन्ड आहेत. अराउंड 12 घाट्स including the Trambak one are proposed this time.
And are they reviving the Chakratirtha also?
Chakratirtha not really heard properly, but what they are doing, तिथे घाट किती बांधताय I'm not sure. हाँ. So yeah, the ghat has become in a way to sort of get the riverfront concept in the city. That's what I feel. Because in a way, you're talking about you're building a riverfront only with the ghats. You're not abiding by the ghat principles that were there architecturally also. So more porous, more like a sponge landscape. It would take floods quite easily. But these are very channelized, structured, concrete ghats. So first of all, are they required? If they are required, then it could have been thought of in a different way also. To reach the river, to reach the water, because in Nasik we have one more challenge of the monsoons. Like Kumbh falls in the monsoons, and if you talk about mythologically, geologically, it is in a way better because the river would have much more bigger flow to get into the people coming in there, and maybe that's why the whole mythology have sort of revolved around कि नासिक में कुंभ मानसून के टाइम पे होना चाहिए because it's a monsoon fed river. You don't have water otherwise. But now with these ghats coming in, it become like a flash flood situation. Like we escaped that in the last Kumbh, but it had happened during one or two Shahistans also in the last Kumbh. कि flash floods हुए थे just because the rain stopped, the situation was handled. We don't know this time, and this time we have seen कि अभी जुलाई के season में ही without the discharge from the dam, the river was up until chest of Dutunda Maruti. The floods were there.
Right.
They were flash floods, urban floods. In that situation, what will happen in these ghats? Are they ready to take, equipped to take the floods? Are they thought of with that point of line first of all, or are they just thought about being a platform along the river for people to be there? So this is where I think the building upon could have been in a much way better. We were in a better state. I think Nasik was in a better state in 2015 Kumbh to build upon for the next Kumbh, which sort of fizzled out. Say COVID happened, many things happened in the construction, smart city projects were happening and getting delayed. Things that happened in the past, definitely, but could have been planned better, is what I feel.
So, because you have you also specialize in anthropology.
Right.
So from that perspective, I just want to ask you one broader question, and then probably I'll ask you more specific question. You also said that you are not from the city.
Right,
So,
right.
so like from a third person perspective, when you look at Godavari and Godavari river culture,
Right.
how do you see the, do you really call it Godavari river culture, or do you think it also qualifies as unique river valley civilizations like Gangetic and Indus?
Indus.
So where do you see? Is it culture in itself, or is it more for can we really call it a civilization?
It is actually like both the terms, like culture and civilization, are quite. They have a very thin line in between them. I would say it is more towards culture. Civilization becomes, if we sort of include the upper Godavari basin from Brahmagiri to Python,
Right.
that would become like a civilization in
Right.
itself.
Right.
Because Satavahana period sort of spread across the belt, Python to Nasik,
Right.
to everywhere it was spread across. So it does qualify in both the categories at the smaller scales. And I think there was this myth also in 1950s, 1960s, when there were not much archaeological evidence from this belt suggesting that we had a Paleolithic period also in Nasik or in the Godavari watershed, for example, because people thought that basalt is not very suitable for carving the stone tools and other things. But the construction of dam itself gave us that stretch segmentation of the stretch of the building, saying that we did have those cultures also here, and that has and why it has become a civilization to that scale, because it has not happened only at one phase, one period. It has happened over and over again. It is multi-layered culture, multi-layered, temporal, happening again and again. And we are still doing. We are actually living the culture. So even in Zunigadi, you go back to Paleolithic segment, and then you have Chalcolithic, you have proto-history, you have history, and then again the Pesha period, and again the living right itself.
Right.
So anthropologically, Godavari watershed is different from the northern because of its ecological, definitely, but it covers a very broad spectrum of landscape. Because if you go back to say even to the period of the Pangaea, when we didn't have the continents, Godavari was there because the Deccan Basalt Plateau has formed at that point of time, and the river was flowing through the Deccan Plateau at that point of time, and that time the river was a very violent, fluctuating river. Then we see that today. Right now it is a very narrow, mellowed, mature river, we can call it. But because of that, Godavari has sort of fertilized and supported many cultures across the Deccan Plateau. So in that way, it has become a civilization. But again, because of Godavari's characteristics and ecology, it is different in microclimatic zones.
Right.
Like as you go towards Andhra, it is very different. You have sandy beaches, you have sandy edges. In the upper Godavari, we have rocky. Everything is rock. So because of that, the culture has also evolved like that. In Andhra, people will be living in the floodplains. But here, we prefer to go and live in the hillocks. Like Nasik is up on the hillocks, right? Nine Tekra Panjamanto. So and they were formed by the meanders of the Godavari. So it was more southwards. The coast was more southward, and then it has shifted towards north and where it is right now.
Basically, silt deposition.
Yes, because of the meanders and because of the Deccan Plateau, it sort of deposits silt on one side and making those smaller mounds on which people prefer to live, because Godavari was a very violent in terms of the flooding because of its expanse, because of the water volume. But now it has, with dams coming up and everything, it has mellowed down to a different phase right now. But that was the characteristic of Godavari, and that's why it became a cultural evolution which is existing and happening through the periods. From say the Pangaea, the Cretaceous period, up until the modern
Right.
time, modern times. It had seen all.
So I mean, I just want to
Yeah,
clarify. Pangea, did the river originate after the volcanic eruptions on the Deccan, or was it
No.
existing?
After the volcanic eruption.
Okay.
Yeah. But after the volcanic eruption, when the Deccan, the basalt
Hmm.
was sort of cooling down,
Hmm.
that was a period when it was a very wet period.
Hmm.
It saw rainfall through the multiple years.
Right.
That's where the water streams of the entire Deccan plateau has emerged.
So-
Even Krishna has a similar story.
Hmm.
So all the Deccan rivers have similar story of the similar time period of emerging and flowing through the Deccan plateau.
Hmm. I think a few years back you had started this very interesting initiative called the Godavari Shanati.
Right.
Can you please tell us about it and
Yeah.
how it came about and what was your main intent?
So it was primarily an intent of walking with the river. We usually in Nashik or in any other city for that matter, wherever we have the river, we do go to the river to pray and worship, do the ritualistic needs. But nobody really sort of even meet the river through its journey. Because of the road network, because of the vehicles, we just cross over it through the bridges. We just don't stop, pause and walk to see how river is behaving, changing through the seasons.
Right.
And that was the part of my research also, saying that talking about how people would want to reconnect with the river apart from a spiritual way. What could be the other way was, so that's where we came up with the idea of walking with the river. And we used to sort of start from Ramkund, walk from on the one edge and then cross over at Tapovan. That time we had that bridge
Right.
to cross over,
Ah,
and then cross over from that small hillock from the other side, and then walk along the other bank of the river.
Hmm.
So in that, the idea was to see river in different seasons. At its minimal when there were summers, at its maximum when there are monsoons. So ecologically how it behaves, what it requires, what it needs from us to understand that the midway, like how we can live with it, but also not encroach on in its in reverse way also. To understand that, it was really an experiential activity in that sense. Not really really about awareness also, but we would wanted the people to experience the river, how it is, because people hardly go beyond the Ramkund stretch. People go to Tapovan, yes, but in between what is happening was not really, people wouldn't know about it. That was the intent of it, and that became the part of my PhD research also, because my research was more of a participatory active research. So where it was more of talking about not only about getting the passive, active voices from the river, but actively contributing in shaping a discourse also. So in a way, joining the discourse out of what is happening in Nashik in that period of time was also the intent of it. So that people start talking about more about the river in an ecological way, in a river-centric way, was also the intent of the activity.
I had a question I forgot. I'll ask you again.
Yeah.
One more question I want to just we can just speculate
Yeah.
about it. Do you think that you must be knowing that the development plan needs to be done legally
Right.
every 20 years,
20 years.
and Kumbh happens every 12 years.
12
Do you
years.
think that the development plan of the city can really happen in conjunction with the Kumbh itself? So when you're preparing for Kumbh, do you think the development plan of the city itself should be done overlapping with the Kumbh's
Kumbh.
development, so that the larger city benefits out of it?
For that, I think we should collectively come to a consensus that are we just hosting the Kumbh or using the Kumbh as an opportunity to build and upgrade or uplift cities' developmental model also. because right now it is in between, and that's where the confusion lies. कि ये DPR में डालना है कि कुंभ में डालना है is the confusion, right? So that is where I think the city collectively has to come to a consensus कि हम कुंभ को कैसे देख रहे हैं. Like we cannot really take the example of, like, because I am pointing out Prayagraj more because that is the earlier kumbh that has recently happened and people are referring to that for the planning purposes also. But it is not merely an event in Nasik. We cannot look at kumbh as a merely an event because it is a big part of fabric itself. So it has to happen with the DPR. That is an ideal situation. But for that, the entire preparation model has to change. It cannot happen a year before. It has to happen at least 5 years before. So that's where the breathing period, alternative modes of, say, commute, of the transportation, of management of different flows of infrastructure can happen. In a span of 1 year, all the flows together, if one flow blocks, all the other gets blocked. So it has to happen in that way. Like the planning model has to change for Nasik, specifically Nasik's kumbh. In Trambak, it is still possible to happen a year or two before because Trambak economy functions on the religious tourism only. And its population is smaller compared to the Nasik. But Nasik is a growing city which also supports different industrial needs, different kind of service sectors. So that way, the diversity is much more heterogeneous in Nasik, which have dealt with in the DPR also. People also require like houses. People coming from outside would require house also. So all these needs have to be coordinated with Kumbh also, but then the model has to change for the preparation.
I did a little bit of research and I found out that in Prayag, Uttar Pradesh has a Mela Act.
Mela Act, yes.
We don't have that.
We don't have that.
Maybe that will be a good way to, at least if you want to emulate, let's copy that part.
Part of it, yeah, exactly. And interestingly, that Mela Act was something that British was accepted.
Oh, okay.
We have been modifying it, but we had, because the scale of Kumbh in Prayagraj, even in colonial times, was very massive. And they also had to, like, they had their own interests of doing a Mela Act because they want to control certain things. कि यहाँ पे क्या होना चाहिए, क्या नहीं होना चाहिए. But the good part is, it also gave us a way, a model or a path which we can build upon. To then suit our needs. How much they have done it, we have to check that. But then something like that has to happen. Every time we, like, in Nasik, again coming to Nasik example, last time baat hui ki we would have a Godavari conservation cell in the last Kumbh. Is it active? Is it functional? If it have made a very prominent thing of the governance, then we could have, that thing could easily take up the load of, say, public works department, which is dealing with the Godavari also. So that becomes a legal regulatory action that the Nashik could have taken in the last Kumbh. अगर कुंभ प्राधिकरण को बनाना ही है, like every time, अभी जो बनाया है प्राधिकरण को प्राधिकरण, we got a different body altogether. We have a district collector's office, we have a corporation office, we have a third body also, Kumbh authority. अगर ये authority आनी ही है in the picture, let us bring it from the beginning only, ना?
So let it be a permanent
thing, authority only. You call it whatever it should be called, but it should be thought in that sense. अगर कुंभ की बात करनी ही है आपको after every 10 years, 12 years, so वो पहले से ही दिमाग में होना चाहिए ना. Like whosoever the officer is coming in that period also should think about the kumbh, because everything is then narrowed down to kumbh only. Then automatically DPRs would align with the kumbh and vice versa. The kumbh will align with the DPR and people's needs.
I think this Kumbh Mela authority, the Mela authority, if the Mela Act can come, then there will be a lot of interesting things which can happen.
Exactly.
Is that the biodiversity, the red line, blue line could be regulated. And the legacy issue of what happens after the city goes back to the pre-event thing. how do we manage that?
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a very interesting.
Yeah. Because you can't really remap every time the floodlines. You have to have it every 50 years, yes, but
Right.
every 10 years you cannot really remap the floodlines, because that's again then engaging with the ecology in a different way. You're encroaching, and your intent is to encroach upon,
Right.
if you're reworking floodlines every 10 years.
In conclusion, if you have some final thoughts to share with us, and just bring this conversation to a close. You've already touched upon so many aspects of the
Yeah.
Kumbh and the city and its history and its potential future. But if there is something that you would like to wrap this up with.
One thing which I really love about Nasik, and which, because I call Nasik my home now, because I'm living here since past 3-4 years, permanently here now, is that Nasik has this capacity of voicing things at very right moment, which I think many cities lack. And I think that is the beauty of Nasik's जी एक वाइब असते ना शहराची, is what Nasik has. Even if we are called laid back, Nasik is often called a laid back city, but I think that laid back gives us that point of pause, being slow in the urban pace, reflect back upon, and act at the right moment. I think that is where I think we are right now also with the current Kumbh also. That whatever we are getting in our plate right now, we can slowly absorb, reflect, and then negotiate, because at the end whatever is getting built will be negotiated by the people which is left with, right? So that negotiation चा room आपल्याकडे आहे, and we can definitely negotiate it very in a positive way. And I think that should people think about, and take it forward from the current point of time in Nasik. I'll conclude with that, I guess.
With that, thank you so much again, Shilpa, for
Thank you.
taking out the time and talking with us.